Midnight in Paris, with you. The city of lights held a different kind of magic after midnight. The bustling streets quieted, the throngs of tourists dissipated, and a sense of intimacy settled over Paris like a soft blanket. It was during these hushed hours that two souls, seemingly destined to collide, found themselves drawn to the same empty. Elise was an artist, a painter who found inspiration in the nocturnal solitude of the city. She worked late into the night, her studio bathed in the soft glow of moonlight, her canvases filled with vibrant colors and swirling brushstrokes. But sometimes, when the muse eluded her, she would seek refuge in the quiet corners of a nearby café, a place where she could sip strong coffee and let her thoughts wander. Jean-Luc was a chef, a culinary artist who poured his heart and soul into his creations. He worked in a Michelin-starred restaurant, crafting exquisite dishes that tantalized the senses. But after the last customer had departed and the kitchen had been cleaned, he would often find himself restless, unable to sleep. He would wander the streets of Paris, seeking solace in the quiet anonymity of the night, eventually finding his way to the same empty café as Elise. Their first encounter was accidental, a brief exchange of glances in the dimly lit café. Elise was sketching in her notebook, her brow furrowed in concentration. When Jean-Luc entered, his eyes tired but his smile warm. He nodded politely as he passed her table, and she returned the gesture, a faint blush rising to her cheeks. They didn't speak that night, but Elise found herself strangely drawn to the mysterious chef. There was something about his quiet intensity, his air of melancholy, that resonated with her own artistic soul. A few nights later, they met again. It was the same cafe. The same hour, the same sense of quiet solitude. Elise was sitting at her usual table, sipping her coffee, when Jean-Luc walked in, his presence filling the small space. This time, he approached her table. "Excuse me," he said, his voice soft and melodic. "I couldn't help but notice you here the other night. I hope you don't mind me joining you." Elise's heart fluttered in her chest. "Not at all," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. "Please, sit down." Jean-Luc pulled up a chair and sat across from her, his eyes studying her with a gentle curiosity. "I'm Jean-Luc," he said, extending his hand. "Elise," she replied, shaking his hand. "It's nice to meet you, Jean-Luc." They talked for hours that night, sharing their stories, their dreams, their passions. Elise learned that Jean-Luc was a perfectionist, driven by a desire to create culinary masterpieces that would evoke emotions and memories. Jean-Luc discovered that Elise was a dreamer, visionary who saw the world in a different light, capturing its beauty on her canvases. They discovered a shared love for the city of Paris, its hidden corners, its romantic atmosphere, its timeless charm. They talked about art, about food, about life, their conversation flowing effortlessly, like a river finding its way to the sea. As the sky began to lighten, signaling the approach of dawn, they realized that they had been talking for hours. Jean-Luc stood up, a wistful expression on his face. "I should get going," he said. "I have to prepare for the lunch service." "Me too," Elise replied. "I need to get back to my studio." They walked out of the cafe together, the silence between them filled with unspoken emotions. As they reached the corner, Jean-Luc turned to her, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "Perhaps," he said, "we could do this again sometime?" Elise smiled, her heart soaring. "I would like that very much," she replied. And so, their midnight rendezvous became a regular occurrence. Every few nights, they would find themselves drawn to the same empty cafe. Their conversations deepening, their connection growing stronger. They explored the city together, hand in hand, their laughter echoing through the deserted streets. They visited hidden art galleries, sampled exquisite pastries, and strolled along the Seine River, their love blossoming under the watchful gaze of the moon. Elise found that Jean-Luc's presence inspired her art, his passion for perfection pushing her to new creative heights. Jean-Luc discovered that Elise's optimism and her unique perspective on the world helped him to see beauty in the simplest of things. One night, as they sat in their usual cafe, Jean-Luc reached across the table and took Elise's hand. "Elise," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "I think I'm falling in love with you." Elise's heart skipped a beat. "I think I'm falling in love with you too, Jean-Luc," she replied. They leaned in and kissed, their lips meeting in a tender embrace. The world around them seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them lost in the magic of the moment. Their love story unfolded like a beautiful painting, each brushstroke adding depth and color to their relationship. They supported each other's dreams, celebrated each other's successes, and comforted each other during times of hardship. Elise's art gained recognition, her paintings exhibited in galleries around the world. Jinglutz's restaurant earned its second Michelin star, his culinary creations praised by critics and food lovers alike. They built a life together filled with love, laughter, and a shared passion for art and food. They bought a small apartment in Montmartre, overlooking the city that had brought them together. Years passed, and their love only grew stronger, their bond unbreakable. They continued to meet at their usual café, even when their lives became busier, their midnight rendezvous a cherished tradition. One night as they sat in the café, sipping their coffee, Jingluc turned to Elise, his eyes filled with a lifetime of love. "Do you remember the first time we met?" he asked, a nostalgic smile on his face. Elise smiled back. "How could I forget? Midnight in Paris with you. It was the beginning of everything." Jean-Luc reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it to reveal a beautiful diamond ring, Elise said, his voice trembling with emotion. "Will you marry me?" Elise's eyes filled with tears of joy. "Yes, Jean-Luc," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." They embraced, their love story reaching its perfect crescendo. Midnight in Paris, with you, it was the beginning of forever,